In today's video, I'll be ranking every vehicle I've owned from worst to best since I was 17. Before we get into today's video, you guys need to smash that like button because the algorithm on YouTube is absolutely all over the place. All right, guys, I'm pulling up my phone here and there's quite a bit of cars. There's 17. This is absolutely by far the worst car I've ever owned. I'm gonna tell everyone right now, do not ever buy this car. It was an absolute pile of junk. The first car on the list is a 2003 Volkswagen Passat V6 engine. This car was a nightmare. I originally bought it as a flip. Honestly, I thought I was gonna flip it for money and I ended up losing a lot of money on it. It only had like 80,000 miles. It was a one owner too, which is really the crazy part. And this car left me stranded on the side of the highway. The transmission blew up in like 3 weeks of owning the car. It would leak oil mysteriously. It would leak coolant like every day, and I don't know from where. It would misfire really bad. This car was just absolutely junk. I mean, it was such a bad car. And the craziest part too is when the transmission went out, guys, it wasn't just like a normal, it went out. Like it grenaded itself. It literally almost ejected me out of the seat. And I think those 5-speed transmissions in those VWs in the early 2000s were notorious for those issues. But this car was just absolutely junk. Don't ever buy a Volkswagen Passat from the early 2000s. They're horrible. On to the next car, guys. It would be a 1990 Ford Explorer. And the weird part is I actually really like this vehicle if it wasn't for this one issue. It was rust-free. It was a really cool little truck. It was good on power and everything. Of course, the transmission went out again. And it seems like a theme in this video, but you can't trust Facebook Marketplace at all. I bought it from this kid, which was the first mistake I made. And he said it ran perfect. And it did for like the first 2 weeks of owning this truck. And then the transmission blew up on the side of the road, leaked all the fluid out. And literally I had to call AAA and tow it back home like an hour away. Yeah, I will say it did help me move into this house because that trunk was just massive. Okay, on to number 15. This would be our 2014 Mercedes C350. Originally, this car, my girl bought it for her, but I ended up driving it everywhere. So I guess it was both of our cars. I didn't like this car at all. There was nothing wrong with it, really. It had low mileage. It ran perfect. But I've owned another W204 chassis vehicle, which you'll see in this list later. There was just nothing special about this car. You can't mod them. You can't do anything about it. It's just a really boring car. Oh, and I messed up on the exhaust so bad. I straight piped it and it sounded like a wasp's nest. Worst sounding V6 ever. Bruh. If I have a clip, I'll throw it in. Number 15 we're on, right? Number 15, this would probably be my 2015 Audi A3. This car was okay at best. It was a 1.8 turbo, somewhat reliable actually, I will give it that. And it was tuned. We did go stage 2. It had a downpipe. It was, I think they made 250, 260. But then again, it was front wheel drive and there was just nothing special about it. I made it look ghetto as hell. We blacked it out completely. And then we traded the car in for the SQ5. So I only had it for about like 8 or 9 months. Yeah, and it had a lot of miles as well. I think we sold it with like 150 or 160,000. Again, a really reliable car. The next vehicle on this list, and it would be a lot higher because I really like this car, but it had a horrible reliability issue. It would be my 2018 Jeep Wrangler. And this car I absolutely loved. I loved the way it looked, the tires, the top, everything. But the dealer I bought it from, it was basically a lemon. It had the notorious death wobble on it. And this car shook so violently, you can't even go over 50 miles per hour. And if you guys own a Jeep, you know what I'm talking about. It was bad, like dangerously bad. It sat in the dealer for like a month. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to fix it. After going back and forth for like 2 or 3 months, I told them, you guys need to buy my vehicle back. And that's how I got my 2019 Jeep Wrangler that I still have right now. You guys see it in all the videos. That car is excellent. But I traded it in from that Jeep Wrangler because I had no choice and I wanted a Jeep. And the craziest part is this car only had like 30,000 miles on it. So if you guys are gonna buy a Jeep Wrangler, make sure you test drive them because a lot of them have death wobble. The next vehicle on this list would be probably my 2008 Mercedes C300. And I like this car a lot. It was a great car. It was the second car I bought. I was about 18 or 19. This C300 is kind of special to me in the sense it was my first like foreign car. I felt really good about it. I paid cash and this thing was so reliable, guys. I've never had one issue with this car. It was just straight up oil changes and tires. And it also was moved from every state. It was in like Virginia. I drove it from California. I did like a road trip in it all the way back to the East Coast. I've been to Florida with it. It had really high mileage too. It was just a great car. It's not super high on the list. It's in the middle just because it is kind of boring like the C350. You can't really mod them. The next vehicle on the list, it would be a 1972 Volvo 144. And a lot of people probably don't even know this car existed, but we had it for like 2 months. And it was a great little project we bought. I got it for a really good price. However, I did buy it from a really sketchy place in the middle of nowhere. The car did have a couple issues. Granted, it had like 400,000 miles on it. Originally, I was gonna restore it, but I just sold it because it wasn't for me. I don't know, it was just really old and I didn't have the money at the time really to fully restore it. It would be the 1997 Honda Accord. And the reason this is high up on the list is because of how mint this thing was. I bought it from the original owner. There was like not one issue with this car. I made a video on it actually of restoring our Honda Accord, and you guys can see it. We did a whole just review on it. Interior was perfect, the engine was perfect, everything was flawless on this vehicle. Number 9 would be the Subaru Impreza 2024. I bought this car for my girl, and it is high up because it's like the first vehicle I got approved on a loan on. Every other car I've mentioned before was all cash vehicles. I bought this car brand new. I got a really good price on it with like 0 miles on it off the showroom floor from Subaru. And I mean, there's not much to it. It's a basic vehicle, but I just feel proud that it was the first like loan I actually got on a car. And I got it for my girl. We still have it right now. It's our daily. My girl racked up 50,000 miles in 1 year of owning this vehicle and curbed every rim too. So that's that. Now, these are probably my actual favorite cars I've owned. Number 8 would be the S650 Mustang EcoBoost. Yes, I know it was an EcoBoost. I don't really care. This car was so fun to drive. It was really quick for what it was. It had the 10 speed. I'm not even sure why we even bought this vehicle, but we didn't even have it for long. We had it, I think, for like 7 or 8 months. And I got a really good price to trade it in, which is why we didn't have it very long. And that leads us to number 7, which would be our 2021 Acura TLX, which we own currently. This is the car that the Mustang got traded in for. I got a really good price on that car, and I like the Acura a lot. I love this body style. It matches the color of the C8 which is why, honestly, it sold me in onto it. And on top of that, the price was really good. It was the A-spec, so it was fully loaded. You could say this is like my daily, basically. I drive it a lot when I don't want to put mileage on, the Audi or the VED. It is a really good car. I bought it with only like 28,000 miles and it's in perfect condition. It has a full ceramic coat on the paint. Number 6 would be the 2019 Jeep Wrangler, which I still have. It is in my driveway. I absolutely love this car. It is dead reliable. I've never had one issue with it, and it fits absolutely everybody in it. It fits my big ass dog. It's really easy to clean because of the material inside. It is a Sahara, so it's fully loaded. And this is the Jeep I traded in for the other Jeep, which was just a pile of junk. The loan on this was a little high, which is why it's going to sit at number 6. I did not get a good price on this at all. I bought this car in 2022 or 21, I forgot. 21, which were all the loans were all the way up. The interest rates were through the roof right after. I did not get a good deal on this car. I will not lie. All right, these are the top 5 cars I've owned. I don't even need my phone because I remember all of them at the top of my head. Number 5 is going to be my 2003 Nissan Maxima. This car is high for one specific reason. It was a pile of junk, right? But here's the thing. It brings so much nostalgia for the fact that this car brought me into the car scene. I literally learned how to work on my cars because of it. I put a whole exhaust on it. I took the cats off. It was a 350Z motor, so it like motivated me to modify it, you know what I mean? It was a sleeper too, actually. I did have a couple bolt-ons on it, nothing crazy. It was not reliable at all. The transmission also did go out on it, probably because of the way I drove it. But that's it with that car. Number 4, this car was one of my favorite cars I've owned, but unfortunately it got totaled. It was my 2007 Mercedes CLS 550. I absolutely love this car. It was a tank. It was big. It looked just beautiful in my opinion. And it was really, really fast. It had a whole exhaust on it, long tube headers, intake. It was tuned as well. It made around like 400 wheel. It was really quick. It sounded just insane. And everything worked on this car. The air suspension, it only had like 70,000 miles on it for being an '07, which is super low. Unfortunately, I did get into a wreck with it pretty badly. The brakes locked up. It was raining outside. But basically, I rear-ended someone at like 70. So it did save my life too. It was a really safe car. It even had airbags for my knees. Like this car was just super safe. And the damage wasn't even that bad, which is the crazy part. This is the top 3 now. These cars I love, and 2 of them I still own. 1 of them, unfortunately, I don't. All right, number 3 is going to be the Audi SQ5, which I have currently. Handles insane. We have a whole review on this vehicle. It sounds absolutely incredible, and it's really fast for being an SUV. I was debating putting this too at number 2, but I just couldn't, just because number 2 is more special in my opinion. But the SQ5, I'm debating even building it. All right, number 2 would be my BMW E30 1990. This car was the first project car I bought back in, I think, 2019. I got it for a steal. I got it for 2,500 bucks off a really old guy. And he was pissed I got it for that cheap. It came with the original BBS wheels. It had like little to no rust. It did have a couple issues. This car, I've put so much money into it, guys. Like I have a whole list of parts I've done. But it ran absolutely amazing. It was my first manual as well, so I learned how to drive stick on it, and it was fully modded. It had wheels, it was lowered. The interior had a couple good parts. It had headers. The motor had some work done to it as well. I almost went on E85 with this car, but at the same time, I ran out of funds. I was really young, which is why I also sold it, because I just needed the money at the time. But that would be the one car out of this whole list that I regret selling, would be my E30. And it was so easy to work on. I can have that motor out of that car in like 4 or 5 hours. It's not like a modern BMW where it's just cram-packed and all plastic junk. Now, this car also did have like 300,000 miles. I actually don't know the mileage because if you know about these old BMWs, the odometer just stopped working on them. But it burned a lot of oil. It would need oil every like 2 or 3 weeks. This car was so loud and it would pop like every other BMW. You couldn't go anywhere in this car without someone looking at you in disgust. And number 1 is, of course, the C8 behind me. There's no explanation for this, obviously. It's my first supercar I bought. It changed me completely in a way too, in the fact that it's just the first like super expensive car I was able to afford or get. I've had it for about a year now, and I can say I don't plan on selling it at all. If anything, I plan on actually building it. It handles just like a Huracan. Also, it did pull 1G, I remember, on a turn. On a back road actually, which proves how good it handles. The best part probably about owning this car would be every time you just step foot in it and drive it, you feel like special. Everyone like stares at you or asks you like what you do. They think you're like this crazy, you know, rich person or whatever. It's just such an engaging car to drive. The color on this car is probably what sold me in onto it. Everyone has the basic red or the light blue, which I think is actually really ugly. The dark blue, in my opinion, is like the most pretty color you can get on the C8. Also, it is the 3LT model with the Z51 package. So it's just the top trim. It has the front active lift, which helps a lot over speed bump. These brakes as well are upgraded from factory. They have track pads on them. It stops really good. It has glow in the dark brake pads, or calipers as well. Just there's nothing bad to say about this car really. The only thing I will knock it on is I have had some issues with it. Being a GM, it has had electrical issues. I made a short recently on how the C8 broke down in the middle of the road and it wouldn't turn on at all. But other than that, that's just gonna wrap up the list, guys. Obviously, it's gonna grow the more cars we get for the channel. And we have so many plans for this YouTube. I mean, I wanna buy a lot of projects. In the next year or so, I'm planning on buying another supercar as well. I have no idea what yet. I have a couple on my mind. I'm thinking of either getting the Lotus Emira or the Aston Martin Vantage. Also the Mercedes GT. I really like those as well. Yeah, and comment down what you guys would like to see. We're here to build cars for you as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. That is a wrap up of every car I've owned since I was 17. Quite a bit, honestly, and it's only gonna go up from here. We're gonna have a poll posted as well of project cars you guys would like us to buy for the channel. Please make sure to vote, as I'm gonna buy a car by the end of this month, hopefully, if we actually find something decent. But until next time, guys, thank you for watching.